Good evening, friends. Big day for all of you. All right, so let's have the first reaction on this amazing exam, UPSC Mains 2026 GS Paper 2. I'm going to discuss the first reaction and I'm going to share with you what is the broader framework within which these questions were asked. So, सबसे पहले तो मुबारक हो आप सब लोगों के लिए because UPSC seems to have turned a color or turned a leaf rather because इस time जो exam आ रहा है has been amazingly beautiful and straightforward. तो यूपीएससी 2026 का जो हम लोगों ने प्रीलिम्स में झटका देखा है राइट वी काइंड ऑफ रिकवर्ड फ्रॉम दैट बिकॉज ये बिल्कुल स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड एग्जाम आया एंड आई एम वेरी हैप्पी एंड आई विश ऑल द बेस्ट टू एवरीवन हु हैज अपीयर्ड एंड आई विश ऑल द बेस्ट फॉर एवरीवन हु इज अबाउट टू अपीयर नेक्स्ट ईयर बिकॉज अगर इस तरह से स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड एग्जाम आने लग गया तो इट विल बी वेरी गुड फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू. एग्जाम यूपीएससी का कभी भी आसान या टफ नहीं होता, हमेशा टफ ही होता है बिकॉज ये आसान एग्जाम बना ही नहीं है. लेकिन यूपीएससी एस्पिरेंट्स को ये विश्वास रहना चाहिए एट ऑल टाइम्स कि बिल्कुल अनप्रेडिक्टेबल पेपर ना आ जाए, आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स ना आ जाए. वंस इट इज आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स देन इट बिकम्स एब्सोल्युटली इम्पॉसिबल फॉर एनीवन टू हैंडल दीज क्वेश्चंस. आई डोंट वांट एनीवन ऑफ ऑल ऑफ यू टू गो थ्रू दैट एंटायर पार्ट. सो लेट अस नाउ स्टार्ट quickly getting through this part. Before we start, please remember GSM 1, GSM 2. GSM 1 has already been discussed. Polity और governance में मैं यहाँ पे डिस्कस करूंगा. Ayer, one of my another educators from Unacademy would be addressing the first reaction. मैं पॉलिटी और गवर्नेंस पे फर्स्ट करूंगा. क्विकली एक बात ध्यान से देख लेना. आई एम श्योर इस टाइम तक तुम्हें काफी सारे पीडीएफ वगैरह मिल चुके होंगे. गो एंड सर्च फॉर देम. अगर वो तुम डाउनलोड कर सकते हो तो ठीक है, अदरवाइज कीप एन आई ऑन द स्लाइड्स एंड आई विल एक्सप्लेन दिस एवरीथिंग. ओके, so this is the timetable for the civil services mains examination. 21st पेपर ऐसे हम लोगों ने कल किया है, we have already seen this. 22nd GS1 and the GS2 जो आज हम लोगों ने अभी करेंगे, and then tomorrow watch out for paper 4 and paper 5, and then next weekend we'll see on 29th and 30th. So this is the schedule. ये तुम्हें भी पता होना चाहिए, especially those who are appearing or aspiring to become the UPSC aspirants जो IAS officers बनना चाहते हैं. You must have an idea कि किस तरह से एग्जाम होते हैं. इट्स अ ग्रूवलिंग एग्जाम, बहुत थका देता है. इट इज फिजिकली, मेंटली, इमोशनली ड्रेनिंग. तो उसके लिए तैयार हो जाओ. इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू बी इजी आराम से बैठे हुए एंड देन यू विल बी एबल टू प्रिपेयर फॉर दिस एग्जाम. यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू डू इट. सो लेट्स जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड ईच ऑफ दिस. राइट, सो ये सारे के सारे हमने ब्रेकअप किया है. दिस इज द हार्ड वर्क ऑफ अनअकैडमी टीम. दे हैव डन दिस फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू. Polity में basic structure, comparison between the various constitution, executive, legislature, separation of power, federation, local bodies, welfare, protection, poverty, hunger. Make sure मैं साइड में हट जाता हूं. Take a screenshot of this ताकि तुमको पता चले कि किस तरह के क्वेश्चंस आते हैं और एटलीस्ट जो चेंजिंग ट्रेंड्स होते हैं. मैं थोड़ी देर के लिए हट जाता हूं. टेक अ स्क्रीनशॉट ऑफ दिस. ये तुम्हारे काम आ जाएगा और बाद में तुम्हारी एग्जाम प्रिपरेशन में ऑल ऑफ दिस वुड कम प्रीटी हैंडी. ऑल्सो prepare with UPSC 19,999 plus free extension तुमको मिल रहा है. Make sure that you don't miss this opportunity. और तुमको मेरा कोड मालूम ही है, अब तक तो सबको पता ही चल गया. So any which ways this is for you. So please use the code SIDLIVE SIDLIVE and utilize this. We'll be very happy to teach you. We have hugely professional people जिनका काम सिर्फ ये है सुबह शाम यही सोचते रहना कि किस तरह से we'll be able to help you achieve your dreams, your aspirations, and make sure that you become an IAS officer as you have already dreamt. So let us quickly get down to the business, all right, and understand this part. Pehla question is right to privacy relating to, look at the question, right to privacy relating to self-identity is very dear to every human being and well protected under Article 21 of the Constitution. In this context, examine the effect of amendment in 2026 to Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act of 2019. Please ये याद रखने वाली बात है, ये सिर्फ फर्स्ट रिएक्शन दिया जा रहा है. मैं डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस आई डू इट टुमारो इन विच आई विल एड्रेस ऑल ऑफ दिस. सेंट्रल इशू इन दिस क्वेश्चन राइट टू प्राइवेसी है. राइट टू प्राइवेसी मेरे ख्याल से, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, 2018 ऑनवर्ड्स ऐसा शायद ही कोई साल गया है जिसमें आइदर इन प्रीलिम्स और मेंस यूपीएससी ने राइट टू प्राइवेसी नहीं पूछा है. दिस इज एवर सिंस द जस्टिस केस पुट्टास्वामी वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया, द पॉपुलरली कॉल्ड एज आधार केस. उस केस के जजमेंट के बाद से आई हैव नेवर सीन राइट टू प्राइवेसी बीइंग मिस्ड बाय यूपीएससी. ये इनका फेवरेट टॉपिक हो गया. यू विल बी वेरी इंटरेस्टेड टू नो राइट टू प्राइवेसी इज वेरी डियर, सी अगेन, टू सेल्फ आइडेंटिटी इज वेरी डियर टू एवरी ह्यूमन बीइंग. इस क्वेश्चन में एक नुआंस है. देयर इज सी द ब्रॉडर फ्रेमवर्क इज राइट टू प्राइवेसी, बट देयर इज अ नुआंस. द आइडिया इज वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट राइट टू प्राइवेसी एज अ होल, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट राइट टू प्राइवेसी एज सेल्फ आइडेंटिटी. What is right to privacy. Right to privacy has to be studied within the broader template of Article 21, which says that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. The key word over here is life. Please pay attention. बहुत ध्यान से मेरी बात सुनो. Okay. Don't rush ahead. UPSC aspirants को खासकर the problem here is कि they are बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स में बचपना बहुत भरा हुआ है. They don't understand that these are nuances जिनको आपको concentrate करना पड़ेगा. Pay close attention to what I am trying to tell you. So if I say right to privacy with respect to anything else, वो हम बाद में देखेंगे. But here the word here is self identity. The self identity word में यहां पर especially the Nalsar case, okay, the Nalsar case versus Union of India, जिसमें the third gender को the address कर दिया गया था कि yes, this is also to be understood as a segregate part of identification in terms of sex. So male, female and a third gender is being identified. This was a Nalsar case. Now that Nalsar case actually can be connected to right to privacy. So please don't rush towards answering कि यार हम तो quickly answer दे देंगे. No. यहाँ पर self identity की बात है and therefore यहाँ पर the second part of this question actually adds or rather it supplements the first part of the question. The second part of the question is in this context examines the effect of amendment in 2026 to the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act of 2019. 150 words. I think this will be a hell of a time and space to be able to show whatever you know about right to privacy, whatever you know about self-identity, and we were going to address all of this. Very good question, predictable question, straightforward question. In fact, transgender rights prelims के लिए भी important होता है. I think this is an amazing question. लेकिन जो keyword है, the entire focus has to be that within the broader template of right to privacy, you have to focus and you have to zero in on self-identity. बहुत अच्छा question है. We'll address this tomorrow. I think this was a relatively straightforward question. I'm very happy. This is an amazing question and congratulations to UPSC. क्या question बना है? This is an amazing question. Look at the question. Look at the framing of the question. एक बार question को ध्यान से देखो. Women as a class neither belong to a minority group nor are they regarded as forming a backward class. In the light of the statement, discuss the evolution of women's reservation from local bodies to parliament. Now, this is an amazing question. See, there is a concept in polity and there is a concept in constitutional law जिसको defensive separation बोला जाता है. Try and understand this. So, you have to write an answer. I'm sorry, I cannot be speaking it. I cannot speak directly in Hindi. मेरा हिंदी उतना अच्छा नहीं है. But I don't want to dilute the effect of everyone understanding. Please मेरे साथ रहिए and समझने की कोशिश कीजिए. What is the question here? The question here is very clear कि women as a class neither belongs to a minority group. So मैं Article 29 and Article 30 को women को include नहीं कर सकता. नाम में नेशनल कमीशन ऑफ माइनॉरिटीज एक्ट में विमेन को इंक्लूड कर सकता हूं. नॉर आर दे रिकॉर्डेड एज फॉर्मिंग अ बैकवर्ड क्लास. तो आई कैन नॉट रीड आर्टिकल 15 सब क्लॉज 4. आई कैन नॉट रीड आर्टिकल 16 सब क्लॉज 4. तो फिर मैं विमेन को रिजर्वेशन किस एस्पेक्ट में दे रहा हूं? Now this is an amazing question. This is that aspect that you have to understand of what is called as protective discrimination or defensive separation. ज्यादातर लोग are going to miss that point. I'll be very happy if the examiner finds two words, protective discrimination and defensive separation, which are two constitutionally recognized broader frameworks within which this answer has to be given. Believe me, you उसको वो full marks देने की सोचने लग जाएगा, because this is where women को reservation होना होता है. Now, what is protective discrimination and defensive separation? Of course, we'll deal with this in detail tomorrow. लेकिन an interesting aspect there is कि ये nature में भी और constitutional law का भी एक super provisions है that to preserve the character of the society as such, the vulnerable parts of the society को हमेशा defensively अलग कर दिया जाता है और ensure कर दिया जाता है कि उनको special privileges दिया जा सके. So what really matters, and this is precisely why women and children के लिए Article 15 subclause 3 लिखा गया था. This is precisely why विमेन को लेजिस्लेटिव रिप्रेजेंटेशन के लिए ये बिल्स निकाले गए हैं. दिस इज प्रिसाइसली वाई विमेन सेंट्रिक लॉज बनाए गए. सो द पॉइंट हियर इज दैट जस्ट बिकॉज विमेन माइनॉरिटी नहीं है और विमेन बैकवर्ड क्लास नहीं है, does that necessarily follow that women are not going to get any kind of protective discrimination or protective steps or positive affirmative steps by the society? The obvious answer to that is no. But इसको कैसे frame करेंगे, we are going to look at this tomorrow. But a very interesting question, and I'm very happy कि कितने अच्छी तरह से this part of the question and this part of the question has to be connected. I am very happy. This doesn't look like a very challenging question, but it certainly is. Let's look at the next question. Examine whether the constitutional office of Lok Sabha Speaker has become vulnerable to partisan politics. Okay. Under the current anti-defection regime, what institutional changes are required to ensure the neutrality of the Lok Sabha Speaker in managing a polarized house? Now, we are absolutely largely we agree to a point that the office of the speaker is right now in the middle of the so-called storm in a teacup. Because at this stage, everybody is pointing fingers at the speaker that this office needs to be reformed. Why? Number one, speaker is the presiding officer of the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha is where the government has to have majority and the government has majority. So the shots are called from Lok Sabha. Number three, we have a polarized house, which is distinctly polarized this time, especially between the ruling party and the others. Number four, the speaker in India does not enjoy the same privilege or the same arrangement as we have in England, which is once a speaker, always a speaker, which incidentally was a question that was asked a couple of years back when in the mains examination, I think 2019 or 2020, they asked this question that once a speaker, always a speaker, should India adopt such a structure or not? Any which ways, we have to understand, but there is still a broader framework, the template in which this question has been asked. The template has been asked under the current anti-defection regime. Now, I'll be feeling very sorry for everyone who, unfortunately, if it happens, that he jumps straight into the answer and starts talking about reforming of the speaker's office. No, you have to decide that you are going to answer this only within the nuance in the narrow compass and the prism of anti-defection regime. तुम्हारा फोकस होना चाहिए एंटी डिफेक्शन रिजीम पर. इन अदर वर्ड्स, तुम्हें 10th शेड्यूल के अंतर्गत यू विल हैव टू डिस्कस कि आपको स्पीकर का ऑफिस कैसा रिफॉर्म करना है. दिस इज टू बी अंडरस्टूड अंडर लोकसभा. दिस इज नॉट लोकसभा स्पीकर एज अ जनरलाइज्ड ब्रॉड आंसर. दिस इज एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ. तो एस्पेक्ट सच एज क्या स्पीकर को कितना टाइम पीरियड मिलना चाहिए टू डिसाइड विद इन द एस्पेक्ट ऑफ 10th शेड्यूल और द एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ. शुड स्पीकर accept resignation also as defection or not, and all that stuff. So on and so forth, we are going to understand this part. Again, good question, very good question. But the point here is UPSC being UPSC, वो इतना straightforward question ऐसा लगता है, and many of the aspirants को ऐसा broadly दिखाई देने लगता है. Oh, speaker, let's answer. No, you have to look, narrow down, zero in on the exact concept on which this question is asked. Amazing question. I'm very happy. I love this question. Is the right to vote a fundamental right? Discuss the position of the Election Commission of India while undertaking the revision of electoral rolls. Can it also examine the question of citizenship of voters? Now, this is a question. This is what is called as a landmine question. You take one step outside the perimeter and you are dead. This question should be read opposite, or rather invert the question. The question here is, this is again, as I told you, within the broader framework of right to vote and Election Commission of India. They are asking very specific questions. Can the Election Commission of India do the revision of electoral rolls? We are talking of the special intensive revision, SIR, as well as can the voter card and the citizenship of voters be correlated to one another? Amazing question. See, 2015, these people, UPSC asked this question. Right to vote is a fundamental right. Right to vote is a legal right. Right to vote is a natural right. Statutory. That was a prelims question. After that and before that, there has been plethora of judgments in the Supreme Court which have decided that Supreme Court has said this a multiple number of times that right to vote is not a fundamental right. Finished. Now what happens is, now तुम मेंस का एग्जाम दे रहे हो and you look at is the right to vote a fundamental right. The first thing, the first sigh of relief that comes to you is कि नहीं यार, it is not a fundamental right. We know that. We are prepared for prelims. And you stop there. No. That's only or part of this question, and that is merely the beginning of this question. So the what really matters here is कि इसको इन दोनों पोर्शन से लिंक करना है कि अगर ये मेरा फंडामेंटल राइट है तो क्या सिटीजनशिप को डिसाइड किया जा सकता है व्हाइल आई एम वोटिंग, आधार कार्ड को या वोटर्स कार्ड को मेरे सिटीजनशिप से लिंक किया जा सकता है, एसआईआर परमिसिबल एक्सरसाइज है या नहीं है, एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो इस क्वेश्चन को नीचे वाला जो पार्ट है दैट कैरीज मोर वेट rather than this just merely this line. This is only setting the tone for this question. Beautiful question. Again, as I told you, मैं जैसे तुम लोगों को कल ऐसे बताया था, there has to be a thesis, there has to be an antithesis, and then there has to be a synthesis. We'll address this question tomorrow. I like this question. This is not an easy question, but yes, obviously a predictable topic. Do constitutional bodies like National Commission for Scheduled Castes and the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes possess adequate enforcement powers? I like this. Adequate enforcement powers to secure substantive social equality. Suggest measures to enhance the institutional effectiveness. Please don't make it a short note type of an answer, right? कि जी हमें तो ना short note answer देना है. No. The word here is, the key word here is substantive social equality. There are two types of equalities. One is called as formal equality, जो procedural equality होती है. The other one is substantive social equality. Pay close attention to this. ये इस क्वेश्चन का पल्स है. हर क्वेश्चन का एक पल्स होता है, राइट? तो पूरा बॉडी में ब्लड तो फ्लो कर रहा है, लेकिन वेयर डू यू फाइंड कि ये बॉडी जिंदा है कि मर चुका है इज द बेसिस ऑफ दैट पल्स. हर एक चीज का एक नब्स होता है, एक एसेंस होता है. इस क्वेश्चन का थंब पॉइंट इज सब्सटैंटिव सोशल इक्वालिटी. आई विल एक्सप्लेन इट इन 30 seconds. Of course, we'll deep dive into this tomorrow, but let's just try and understand this in a jiffy. Let me explain this to you. So, प्रोसीजरल इक्वालिटी क्या है? मैं एक लॉ की किताब निकाल देता हूं. सो लेट मी एक्सप्लेन दिस एज अ लॉ. ठीक है, तो मैं एक लॉ की किताब निकाल दी. मैंने एक लॉ निकाला, ये मैंने किताब देखा और मैंने किताब में लिख दिया इक्वालिटी, राइट? सो मैं बोलूंगा एवरीवन विल बी ट्रीटेड इक्वल. खत्म, ये लॉ हो गया. दैट्स इट. दिस इज कॉल्ड एज प्रोसीजरल इक्वालिटी. सो आई गिव यू एन नंबर ऑफ पावर्स एंड मोर एंड आई से गाइस प्लीज गो हेड एंड एनफोर्स इक्वालिटी. लेकिन क्या इतनी पावर्स दी गई है, नंबर वन, और इस तरह से दी गई है, नंबर टू, इस इतनी इफेक्टिव दी गई है, नंबर थ्री, कि उसकी वजह से सच में इस देश में एक्चुअली ऑन द ग्राउंड, इन रियलिटी, डी फैक्टो, सच में, हकीकत में, एसेंस में इक्वालिटी आ सकती है? या फिर इट इज मियरली रिटन ऑन अ पीस ऑफ पेपर कि तुम्हारे पास ये पावर है, तुम्हारे पास क्वासी जुडिशियल पावर्स है, you can do inquiry and so on and so forth, you have all the powers of a civil court, etc etc, you can punish, you can collect evidence, जो तुम्हें मालूम है नेशनल कमीशन ऑफ शेड्यूल कास्ट एंड शेड्यूल ट्राइब्स के पास है, और उनको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडीज भी बना दी गई है. लेकिन क्या उनके पास इतनी ताकत है, इतना एनफोर्स कर सकते हैं कि वो एक्चुअली दे कैन मेक अ डिफरेंस ऑन द ग्राउंड? दिस इज व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज. So the point here is, first you will have to define that and you'll have to tell the examiner in clear words, in not so many words, but in clear words, that guy, Mr. Examiner, मुझे पता है what is substantive social equality and I know how to differentiate it from procedural equality. Then you will have to tell कि National Commission of Scheduled Castes or National Commission of Scheduled Tribes, are they exercising procedural equality as of today, or are they actually in the direction of substantive social equality? I like this question and then you find it. चलो कोशिश करते. Does India's tribal development policy reflect the aspirations of a socially grounded and equity-based governance? Justify your answer. Yeah, I love this question. And I think this is a very emotional question for all of us to answer. See, हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, अगेन वील डीप डाइव इनटू दिस टुमारो, लेकिन हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में या हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मेकर्स के दिमाग में दो बहुत, द वर्ड दैट वाज यूज्ड फॉर शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स, राइट? सो यहां पर है इंडिया ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट, राइट, was the जनजातीय, राइट? इन अदर वर्ड्स, दोज पीपल और अ सेक्शन ऑफ पीपल जिन्होंने डिसाइड कर लिया दैट, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, जिन्होंने वॉलंटरली डिसाइड कर लिया है दैट दे वुड लिव क्लोज टू द नेचर विद देयर ओन सेट ऑफ कस्टम्स, with their own set of principles and so on and so forth. यहां पर you will have to be very worried. देखो, the हिंदी में word यहां पर is, there is a word called as जनजीवी and then there is a word called as मूलजीवी. Now, let's not mix it up with New Zealand. New Zealand में there is something, I hope you know, there is a population called as a Maoris, right? Or in down south, Aborigines. वहां पर यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ मूलजीवी एंड जनजीवी. यहां पर द आइडिया हियर इज कि इफ द वर्ड आदिवासी वाज यूज्ड, राइट, सो व्हाट इज द वर्ड हियर? तो मैं आदिवासी हूं कि मैं मूल निवासी हूं, हैज टू बी अंडरस्टूड इन द करेक्ट सेंस. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, दिस इज नॉट एन इजी क्वेश्चन. I love you, UPSC. You're asking these questions, and as IAS aspirants, you'll have to understand this. कि हम लोग जब आदिवासी और मूल निवासी का कॉन्सेप्ट को ध्यान पर देखते हैं, तब हम ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट पॉलिसी को एक्चुअली उनको एस्पिरेशनल स्ट्रेंथ में देख सकते हैं. कि जब हम लोग अर्बन डेवलपमेंट कर रहे हैं, व्हेन वी आर ट्राइंग टू से, कि ध्यान से सुनना, व्हेन वी आर ट्राइंग टू से कि वी आर ट्राइंग टू मेन स्ट्रीम देम, द वर्ड इज, एंड इट्स अ ग्रूसम वर्ड, इट्स अ हॉरिफाइंग वर्ड. इट कॉजेस, इस टाइम पे मैं बोल रहा हूं तो मुझे गूज़बम्प्स आ रहे. वी आर ट्राइंग टू, वी से वी आर ट्राइंग टू मेन स्ट्रीम देम. नो, because please try and understand, mainstreaming them means getting them away from their voluntarily decided way of life. I hope ये लाइन कहीं जाए. I hope कोई इसका स्क्रीनशॉट लेकर इसको वायरल करे. What I just said, mainstreaming of tribals goes against the spirit of the decision, against the respect of the decisions of the tribals who have decided voluntarily to stay close to the nature by their own customs, by their own way of life, by their own dispute resolution. हम कौन होते हैं उनको मेन स्ट्रीम करने वाले? बिकॉज उनका ये फैसला खुद का है. प्लीज ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड दिस. ये उनका खुद का फैसला है. एंड दैट इज वाई इंडियाज ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट पॉलिसी क्या एस्पिरेशंस फॉर अ सोशली ग्राउंडेड एंड इक्विटी बेस्ड गवर्नेंस है. आप उनको मेन स्ट्रीम कर रहे हो. अरे वो खुद रहना चाहते हैं नेचर के पास. सो यू विल हैव टू आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन. क्या जब हम ये बात बोलते हैं, I am going to take that tribal out of that tribal area, I am going to take him out of his nature world, and I am going to make a multinational company out of that, is it development, or am I taking him away from the very source of life, the very source of their existence, the very source of their identity? What a question. UPSC, I love you. What a question. This is how you answer this question. And we'll go to deep dive into this tomorrow. This is how you answer. So this has to be understood कि मूल निवासी और आदिवासी में जमीन आसमान का फर्क है. Next question is, malnutrition in India is not merely a public health concern. It is also a challenge of social equity, human development, and effective welfare governance. Again, the word here is welfare governance. इस क्वेश्चन का नब्स क्या है? इस क्वेश्चन का नब्स इज वेलफेयर. वेलफेयर कॉन्सेप्ट को समझना और समझाना अपने आप में बिकम्स अ ह्यूज चैलेंज, राइट? So let us not lose sight of what really matters. The word here is welfare. Now first let us understand welfare in terms of polity. Welfare in terms of polity is, Article 38 defines this absolutely in the clear terms. It says, the state shall strive to be a welfare state and with justice, social, economic, political shall inform every sphere of national life. ठीक है? But then justice, social, economic, political में justice word becomes a very important word. Because justice word तो आज तक खुद ही नहीं defined हुआ है. बिल्कुल सही बात है. Because justice word actually comes from the word dharam, न्याय, that kind of stuff. Not merely legal justice. तो धर्म वर्ड जो यूज किया गया था वे बैक महाभारत में, गीता में, दैट एक्चुअली वाज अंडरस्टैंडिंग जस्टिस. इसलिए महाभारत को धर्म युद्ध बोला गया था. Now that dharam yuddha could not be because there were not two religions colliding one another. It was the rule of law. इसलिए बोला गया था यदा यदा ही धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजामहम्. What was that? Whenever injustice will happen, I will come. I as in Lord Shri Krishna will come. So the concept यहाँ पर ये है कि we have to understand first of all what is welfare. Second, you have to understand equity. Third, you'll have to understand this in the broader context of what is malnutrition. So malnutrition में when I say resources, midday meal दे दिया, खाना खत्म दे दिया, but is it just because आप midday meal दे रहे हो कि you are removing equitable problems, or is it merely just another formality कि आप सिर्फ खाना खिला रहे हो? So you have to look at malnutrition in terms of whether we have been able to deliver justice on the ground or not. This is an amazing question and again a very sensitive question for most people to answer, because this is to the extent of malnutrition तुम आंसर दे सकते हो, but until unless you connect it with the rest of the part, the question becomes incomplete. I like this question. It's a difficult question to answer. Analyze the advantages and limitations of the generalist structure of the Indian civil services and contemporary governance. This has been spoken out in multiple quarters. बहुत बार ये बात हो रही है कि तुम एक generalist exam देकर आ रहे हो. You're given a generalist exam. You are knowing everything. One of my IAS friends told me that from A to Z, you have all the departments in which an IAS officer can serve. But does that help in today's governance structure, जहां पर we need absolute specialized people to be functioning in the grand norm, in the contingency of any kind of requirement? We need a subject experts. दुनिया धीरे धीरे specialized होती जा रही है. पहले डॉक्टर्स जनरल थे, right? फिर अब डॉक्टर स्पेशलाइज हो गए. पहले इंजीनियर्स जनरल थे, now engineers are specialized. Now can we also take that and transpose that thought process into civil services? Now that's not such an easy question, because again you will have two sides of the story. कि क्या हमारी गवर्नेंस की रिक्वायरमेंट भी ऐसी है कि हम लोगों को जनरलिस्ट ही चाहिए? Because are we at that level of governance, or is our society at that level of understanding that we need absolute specialist people to behave or perform in the society? Again, a good question. Tomorrow we'll take it up again from pros and cons. We'll answer this question from both the directions. Good question. और जब अपने पर क्वेश्चन आ जाता है तो मुश्किल हो ही जाता है. So this is not what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to look at the question related to, so IR amongst our educators, another educator will answer this. Discuss the position of governor in the federal polity of government. What is the nature of his power while giving assent to the bill passed by the state legislature? Is he bound by the aid and advice of his council of ministers in all his functions? I am sure you know what this question is all about, right? But please understand, you don't have to only answer yes and no, yes and no. And of course, we are talking of state of Tamil Nadu case, okay, the very famous, and the presidential ordinance which followed the state of Tamil Nadu case. Polity के लिए बहुत ही interesting question था. अब now the point here is कि most people will forget the key line here. The key line here is discuss. When I say, ये मैं हमेशा आंसर बताता हूँ, when I say discuss, you have to become an educator for a while. तुम्हें टीचर की तरह बिहेव करना चाहते हो. Whenever you're asking, so all of these questions, for that matter, you will have to. Tomorrow we'll look at each of these questions, right? So इसको हम सारे के सारे concepts, यहाँ पे भी discuss है. So we'll look at the tail words. Okay, these are the key words जिनके ऊपर हम ध्यान देंगे. So everyone, so ये यहाँ पे does India, यहाँ पर justify है. Okay, so as I told you, these are only justification. So tomorrow I will also tell you कि कब जो टेल कीवर्ड आता है, जस्टिफाई आता है, कहीं डिस्कस आता है, कहीं क्रिटिक आता है. डू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडीज यहाँ पे क्या है? यहाँ पे लिखा है सजेस्ट. दिस इज द इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ मेंस एग्जाम. ये ज्यादातर लोग गलती कर बैठते. सो टुमारो डोंट मिस दिस सेशन. ओके, आई विल ऑल्सो गिव यू, मैं क्लास में तुम्हारे पूरा थंबनेल रादर एक स्लाइड बना दूंगा जिसमें मैं तुम्हें बता दूंगा व्हाट टू राइट व्हेन. सजेस्ट आया तो क्या लिखना होता है, कमेंट लिखना होता है तो व्हाट आर दे एक्सपेक्टिंग, जस्टिफाई का क्या होता है, डिस्कस क्या होता है, क्रिटिसाइज क्या होता है, एन्यूमरेट क्या होता है, इवैल्यूएट क्या होता है, ऑल ऑफ दैट आई गिव यू अ लिस्ट ऑफ दोस ताकि यू कैन एड्रेस दोस फॉर योर फ्यूचर एग्जाम. राइट, सो गवर्नर पे क्वेश्चन आया, अगेन डिस्कस, नॉट अ डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन टू से बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ यू आर अवेयर ऑफ दिस पार्ट, बिकॉज ये ऑर्डिनेंस में क्लियरली आंसर दे दिया था सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, कैन वी नॉट हैव जुडिशियल रिव्यू, कैन वी नॉट डिसाइड अ फिक्स टाइमलाइन, इज देयर अ रेड लाइन beyond which you cannot answer this, or the governor can stop or rather delay the state council of ministers from taking certain decision, the state legislature from certain decision, so on and no further. कहां तक जा सकते हैं, ये सब कुछ we have to discuss. I think this was a relatively simple. I love this question. What is meant by judicial legislation? In this context, again, the key word here is, I am very surprised why they are asking discussion very often this thing. Discuss is actually a very easy and at most of the times a very manageable tail keyword. Discuss में आप you can behave like a teacher. You can say from both the sides, right? So you can start discussing pros and cons. In fact, तुम फैल सकते हो जो so called in Delhi Hindi. You can fellow yourself. You can spread your arms. Okay, so you can spread your arms and you can do whatever you want to do, right? You can churn out as many number of thoughts that you want. Discuss helps. Obviously, you will have to do it within the framework of the question as well as the word limit. So this is 250 words. First of all, you have to understand what is judicial legislation. We'll have to discuss this tomorrow. I'll take a short, when I'm going to discuss this, I'm going to give you a short discussion on judicial legislation. Of course, this is kind of related to judicial overreach, which they have been asking in the past, but judicial legislation. So a very classical case is Vishakha case. Vishakha was the state of Rajasthan 1997, which gave the Vishakha guidelines, which was later of 15 years down the line after 1998. So 2013, they passed what is called as the POSH Act, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. That's a classical example of judicial legislation, but we'll look into this part. But in this context, discuss the verdict of Apex Court allowing passive euthanasia and a living will. I am very impressed, UPSC, the way they have formulated the question. They are not asking what is a living will. So they are asking common cause case and passive euthanasia. They are asking, to a certain extent, Aruna Ramchandra Shanbag case. But the way they have put it, because you have to connect this to this. You cannot stop over here. You cannot just do this. You have to address both of these questions together. Amazing question. Very impressive. Indian federal framework, how could we miss this, right? Been successful in accommodating regional and cultural diversities. Highlight, see another keyword, highlight the role of asymmetric federalism and suggest measures to make dispute resolution mechanism more effective. If any amongst you feel this is a simple, straightforward question, you're in for a rude shock. That doesn't work this way. This question is difficult. How far has Indian federal framework been successful in accommodating regional and cultural diversities and asymmetric federalism? In a way, both of them seem to be coming from the or cut from the same cloth, but that's not how it works. Because asymmetric federalism is not only in forms of regional and political similarities or dissimilarities, it actually tries to keep the Union of India together. So, in the broader framework of Union of India, Article 1 says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. You'll have to connect asymmetric federalism. Why did we choose asymmetric federalism? Why was Article 370 in place? Why was Article 371 in place? And also, are we successful in doing in this? So, you have to connect this one to this one. And then you have to look at resolution mechanisms in 250 words. My God, this is going to be a challenge. That if you know your answer, then writing this within 250 words is going to be one hell of a task to be able to complete this everything in 250 words. So you'll have to talk about dispute resolutions also in terms of asymmetric federalism. You have to talk about the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court also. So you have to look at interstate water disputes also, and so on and so forth. So, and you can also give n number of examples also in terms of 370 and 371. You can have, obviously, this is not easy, right? And when they use the word how far, you are already in a big trap, because you cannot say yes or no. So, we can't say yes hai, no hai. No, you have to answer कि कहां पर it has been successful and कहां पर it has not been successful. I like this question. Explain how the separation of powers is practiced in India compared to the rigid presidential model of the United States of America. Now, please don't make me wrong on this. Check out 2019 का, if my memory serves me right, 2019 का UPSC का मेंस का पहला क्वेश्चन, the first question was related to this. Examine. Again, the tail word is examine. We'll do this. Examine is like a doctor. So behave like a doctor, right? So examine is how separation of powers. वहां पे क्वेश्चन आया था 2019 में, my memory serves me right, उसमें क्वेश्चन कुछ ऐसा आया था, separation of powers in India is not as rigid as United States of America. It is based upon doctrines of checks and balances. 2019 का पहला क्वेश्चन था. इट इज वेरी सिमिलर टू दैट, बट इमेजिन यूपीएससी खुद लेयर्ड हो गया. वहां पर उस टाइम पर सिर्फ ये क्वेश्चन को ब्रेक करके यहां पर छोड़ दिया गया था. इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट कंपेयर द एक्चुअल अथॉरिटी ऑफ द इंडियन प्राइम मिनिस्टर with that of the president of the USA. Amazingly difficult. Why? Because Prime Minister of India is a member of legislature also. But the president of India is a president of USA, Donald Trump, for instance, is only an executive. Executive is responsible to legislature in India, but executive is not responsible to legislatures in the truest sense in United States of America. How will we define that in terms of separation of power? You will have to examine it. Tomorrow we'll do it. It's an amazing thing and it's a good exercise in prelims also. तुम्हें facts भी पता चल जाएंगे, figures भी पता चल जाएंगे. We'll do this tomorrow. Okay. Amazing question. I love this question. Simple question. I think this is one of those questions जिसको आप simple बोल सकते हो, and it's interesting to do this. So, Justice, this is amongst our friend who will going to answer this question. Transparency and accountability in governance are not about controlling corruption, but about creating trust of the stakeholders in the policy process by following rule of law and participatory governance. मेरे ख्याल से something that you will never miss. इस क्वेश्चन का thumb is based on, or rather the keyword is based upon participatory governance. We don't have the time. Simple question. In fact, ये हमारा पूरा का पूरा chapter है. Participatory governance, we have done this in our classes. This is to be understood in terms of the line that is given above. Transparency, accountability and governance. And the keyword यहाँ पर is that when you are looking at this question, right, that आपको ये पूरा का पूरा क्वेश्चन सिर्फ कमेंट करना है. You have to look at the tail words. Comment. Again, आप लोग क्या करना स्टार्ट करोगे? You probably start discussing it. That's not how you will do it. I'll tell you tomorrow what are the comments. What does comment do? So this question will suddenly sound and start looking very manageable. Worry not, ये कल हो जाएगा. We'll do this manageable. Relatively simple question. एक और important, can the constitutional mandate of rights-based welfare be effectively realized in the context of a non-integrated governance and minimal public investment? This is kind of a mixture between the self-help groups and the stakeholders group जो हम लोग पढ़ते हैं. But again, something that is not going to be easy, considering the fact that they have asked you to examine this part. So again, a question that requires a bit more discussion than merely a jiffy discussion. We'll discuss this tomorrow. But I think this one relatively is again more general. You'll be able to answer this part. Very important is, should education be treated primarily as a welfare obligation of the state or as a strategic investment for building a globally competitive knowledge-driven nation? Critically evaluate. Very important. So education, when Baba Saheb was asked about education during the Constituent Assembly debates, he was very clear on this part that this has to be urgently addressed. And that is why Article 45 of the Constitution में the only article in DPSP जिसमें एक time period दिया गया था, that is within 10 years of the commencement of the Constitution of India, Article 45, which was dealing with free and primary education to children to 6 to 14 years of age, should be delivered to the children. And that is why later on down the line 1990s में there were judgments one after another, Unacademy case and the I forget the case. Okay. Mohini something. I'm sorry. I forget the case. Anyways, so Unacademy case was the one which finally ultimately led to the pressure on the parliament to pass what is called as the 86 Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002. And 86 Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002 which led to the conversion of Article 45 to Article 21A. In a way, right, substantively, at least by essence. So should education be treated as a strategic part? So yes, certainly. Okay. And we can discuss this and we can go on and so on and so forth. Okay. Yes, in the global environment, we are investing in the future if we are investing in the education. But it is not going to be a simple question because we have to critically evaluate. We'll do this tomorrow. Good question, challenging question, and I am sure that you will be able to address this. Again, this is our friend who's going to discuss this. China's Belt and Road Initiative, our friend will discuss this. And if you want to check it out, please scan this code and you can have the analysis PPT. We are going to discuss this at length tomorrow. कल का सेशन मिस मत करना. If you really want to understand how do you want to address this, मैं थोड़ी देर के लिए हट जाता हूँ. Take a screenshot of this ताकि you can download this PPT and you put to good use. So this is how you understand this, right? Lots of room for lots of discussion. बहुत अलग-अलग questions किए जा सकते हैं, but I'm sure you'll be able to address this. This is how we teach you at Unacademy, professional, crisp and sharp and exact. So अगर तुम पढ़ना चाहते हो, join us. Don't forget my code SIDLive. I'll see you tomorrow in the detailed analysis of this one.